What were the first few things that happened when Joe Biden burgled his way into the White House? White nationalists of America became white supremacists overnight. 6th of January became a bigger issue than 9/11. Gender was turned into a modern construct, and suddenly, green energy and climate activism became the order of the day. While there is no denying the fact that carbon emissions must be cut back to help the environment heal itself, but when green activism is shoved down people's throats, it becomes eco-fascism. India has its share of eco-fascists too, but Prime Minister Modi has just shown the world how to deal with these nosy and noisy scoundrels. Hi and welcome. You're watching TFI Global, the foreign affairs and geopolitical analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. And I'm your host, Atul Mishra. In this video, I will discuss how Prime Minister Modi reduced the eco-fascists of India into a bunch of petty thieves and what lessons Biden can take from him. Let's begin. Eco-fascism is a global menace. Small little NGOs coming together to cripple a country's growth is not particularly unheard of. Across the world, climate activists, who we like to refer as environmental fascists, are resorting to anti-democratic machinations. They are telling people how they should go about leading their lives. These individuals and groups, comprising largely of school dropouts and junkies, are hell-bent on derailing the economies of major countries. What's worse, they make use of pseudoscience to prove a point. Governments across the world have scratched their heads on how to tackle these creatures. And now India, led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, has set an example for the world. What many countries lack is a decisive leader who has the courage to stand up to NGOs and climate eco-fascists, even while he may himself come out looking bad at the end of it. Prime Minister Modi, however, has grabbed the bull by its horns and is also looking heroic while at it. Prime Minister Modi has given the entire world a lesson. He has set a precedent which, if emulated by world leaders, will help them take on eco-fascists with relative ease. The Modi government has moved to restrict the funding for a group of 10 American, Australian and European NGOs dealing with environmental, climate change and child labor issues. According to The Hindu, NGOs included in the recent blacklist are the European Climate Foundation, the Omidyar Network International, the Stardust Foundation and Humanity International from the US, the Walk Free Foundation and the Mindroo Foundation from Australia, the Children's Investment Fund Foundation, the Freedom Fund and the Lords Foundation from the UK, and the Legatum Fund based in both the UK and the UAE. What it means to be on this list is as and when the foreign donor wants to transfer the money to some recipient association in India, the same needs prior clearance of Ministry of Home Affairs. So this is actually as good a step as avoiding the NGO's India operations as a whole. Rest assured, the Ministry of Home Affairs, controlled by Prime Minister Modi's closest aide Amit Shah, will not grant clearance to any foreign donor willing to transfer funds to the listed NGOs. That's the entire point of this exercise. Reports state that the Indian government, led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, has cancelled the FCRA licenses of more than 19,000 NGOs since 2014. According to the MHA itself, the government has cancelled the FCRA license of more than 5,000 NGOs since 2017, forcing many like Greenpeace International and Amnesty International to downsize or even shut down their operations in India completely. Meanwhile, the Indian Home Ministry has, over the past 1.5 months, suspended the foreign funding license of 6 NGOs, which include Islamic charities and others allegedly linked to religious conversions or funds misutilization, citing violations of Foreign Contribution Regulation Act 2010 or the FCRA. Effectively, the Modi government has crippled eco-fascist NGOs and those trying to wage a cultural war in India. They have been choked dry of funds, making operations in the country close to impossible. The Modi government has seen firsthand how these NGOs and vested interest groups can derail India's growth and developmental trajectory, while also stalling projects of national importance. Therefore, the Prime Minister does not want to leave any vacuum for these NGOs and eco-fascists to operate out of. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has taught the world a great lesson. The threat of eco-fascists must be immediately neutralized, and by cutting funding for climate vigilante and far-left groups, Prime Minister Modi has ensured that their very roots in India are uprooted. President Joe Biden of the United States is currently pursuing a toxic and radical climate agenda, which promises to undo all the progress America has made so far. Biden is well poised to turn the clock back by many years for the United States, and he is actually acting at the behest of powerful eco-fascists and climate vigilante groups who hold sway over the Democratic Party. Biden had unveiled his infrastructure bill, which in the infra garb is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's Green New Deal. In order to sustain this $2 trillion green infrastructure bill, the Biden administration even moved with the proposal to raise the corporate income tax rate to 28% from 21%. Shortly after coming to power, Biden passed a blanket order that banned new oil and natural gas leases and drilling permits on federal land and in federal water for 60 days. The US president has crippled the oil and natural gas industry, but there was simply no plan in place to create a parallel green industry that could absorb job losses that are bound to take place in the fossil fuel sector. Most recently, Joe Biden seems keen to rescind the Trump-era steel import tariffs, which will have negative consequences for the USA's domestic steel industry. India is committed to the welfare of the planet. Perhaps there is no other country that is working as hard as India to inhibit the spiraling issues of global warming and climate change. Prime Minister Modi is personally pushing for greater acceptance and usage of electric vehicles. And a few years down the line, EVs will surely dominate Indian markets. India is also working hard to fulfill its energy needs using renewable energy sources. India is the world's third largest consumer of electricity and also its third largest renewable energy producer, with 38% of total installed energy capacity in 2020 coming from renewable sources. For his commitment to the planet in 2018, Prime Minister Modi was even awarded the Soul Peace Prize. Effectively, the Indian Prime Minister has struck a balance between arresting climate change and ensuring that India's growth trajectory is not hampered due to the same. And it is time all world leaders strike this balance.